Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the NoDQ.com live recap of AEW Full Gear 2021 from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support. And if you do like this video, please give it a like and spread the word. Tell a friend. Now, for those of you watching live, I do ask if you plan on sending a super chat. I very much appreciate it, but please try to stick to the topic if possible. For instance, if you want to send a super chat regarding the main event, save it for when I'm talking about the main event, just so we can get through this in a timely fashion. It is past midnight, very late for me to be doing these, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Let's get to this pay-per-view. We had a 4-hour show plus the buy-in. We had a few buy-in segments. We had Tony Schiavone attempting to interview the hometown boy, Dante Martin. We had the Acclaimed interrupting, and they wanted to make an offer. Just like Team Taz wanted the services of Dante Martin, the Acclaimed also wanted his services. Max Caster did his freestyle and said that Lio Rush will probably have his 15th retirement. Dante Martin declined them, and he took them out with a dive, and that was that. We had the buy-in match, which was Thunder Rosa and Hikaru Shida defeating Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter. Pretty solid opening match here to get the crowd warmed up for the pay-per-view. You had Vicky Guerrero interfering, going after Shida's knee using a kendo stick. But in the end, Shida was able to get the pinfall on Nyla Rose. And then we got to our main card. We kicked it off with MJF one-on-one with Darby Allin. By the way, shout out to Caleb Jacobs. Happy birthday to him. His birthday is coming up actually. Is it today or tomorrow? It's actually technically Sunday, so I'm not sure. But regardless, happy birthday. Before Darby's entrance, a video was shown of him crashing a car, and there was a guy with a MJF mask inside the car. Darby set the car on fire. Sting walked out there with Darby, but he went to the back so it could be a fair fight one-on-one. This was a hell of a match to kick off the pay-per-view. Great match between these guys. Two of the pillars of AEW, the 4 pillars that they've been hyping up. Jim Ross called them the 4 pillows of AEW. Joey Perez's birthday is the 14th, so happy birthday. It's technically the 14th on the East Coast right now. This match was great. Lots of wrestling back and forth between the two of these guys. Very evenly matched. At one point, Darby went for a coffin drop. MJF was laying on the apron. MJF moved. Darby crashed and burned, as he tends to do in some of these matches. MJF worked over Darby for a while. Darby kept popping back up. MJF was using pretty much every dirty tactic to try and get the advantage. He would use a thumb to the eye, and he even put on the sharpshooter / scorpion deathlock at one point. Darby was able to escape from that. MJF hurt his knee at one point in the match. Darby was trying to capitalize on that. We had some submission holds applied. Darby put on the figure 4, but MJF was able to get to the rope. And then MJF hit a tombstone to Darby on the apron, which of course is the hardest part of the ring, as they always tend to say. Both of them barely got back into the ring. They started trading a lot of near falls. I mean, just near fall after near fall. They were doing the small package reversals all around the ring. Fans were giving them a standing ovation. And Darby finally managed to hit the coffin drop. MJF rolled to the outside, and Darby hit the coffin drop. That's when Shawn Spears and Wardlow showed up. But Sting was there, ready to even the odds. He had his baseball bat. He used Shawn Spears' chair. MJF then grabbed Darby's skateboard, dared Darby to use it. Darby did not use the skateboard, but when the referee was grabbing the skateboard and putting it to the outside of the ring, MJF grabbed his Dynamite Diamond ring, used it on Darby, and actually won the match with a side headlock, which is how he said he was going to beat Darby in the first place. So MJF picking up a big win here. I'm all for it. Really strong opening match from these guys. Tony H says they deserve the praise tonight. Fantastic stuff from both. Absolutely. Nice start to this pay-per-view. And next up we had Lucha Brothers versus FTR for the AEW Tag Team titles. The bar was set so high in that opening match. And this was a really good match too. Not at the level of the cage match from All Out, but this was still a really strong tag team match. If anything, I thought maybe it went a little longer than it needed to. It was back and forth. You had Tully Blanchard interfering during the match, helping out FTR on more than one occasion. And Wheeler, at one point, he tied Penta's mask to the bottom rope, and Dax Harwood took advantage. Eventually, Phoenix got the hot tag and did all sorts of crazy moves that he tends to do. He did a double cutter on both members of FTR. And Wheeler grabbed the AAA belt. Phoenix was sent into the belt, and he managed to kick out. Penta tagged back in. Blanchard grabbed Penta's foot. And then Harwood went for the Three Amigos, which, of course, one of Eddie Guerrero's trademark moves. And this was the anniversary of Eddie Guerrero's passing, so lots of tributes to Eddie on this show. Harwood did the Three Amigos. That got booed. Penta countered and did the Three Amigos. That got a big pop. Crowd chanted for Eddie. Phoenix then did an Eddie Guerrero frog splash. Crowd was just going absolutely nuts at this point, but Harwood kicked out of it. And then the match continued, and I really felt the match should have ended with the frog splash, like the place was just ready to come unglued. And it kind of fell flat at the end a little bit. Wheeler put on a Super Rana's mask. Remember a few weeks ago he was wearing that mask. FTR were wearing the masks. And he tried to make a pin attempt. His feet were on the ropes, but the referee caught him. The Lucha Brothers then took down Wheeler, double-teamed him, and picked up the victory. So I do think, if I had to criticize the match at all, I think it went a few minutes too long. I think they should have ended it with the frog splash. But still, very good stuff here from these guys. And Michael Wayne says it was Minneapolis where Eddie had passed away. Well, there you go. The anniversary of his death also in Minneapolis, so definitely made sense to pay tribute to him on this show. Moving on here, we had Bryan Danielson versus Miro in the World Title Eliminator Tournament Final. Miro's right quad was taped up, and Bryan would capitalize on that. Bryan wanted a handshake. Miro declined it. Pretty much what you would expect from these guys. Miro doing the big man moves. Bryan trying to take the big man down. They fought on the outside of the ring for a bit. And Bryan put a knee bar submission on Miro. Miro actually powered out of it with a gut wrench suplex. Miro was definitely hurting. He put on the game over submission. Bryan got to the rope. Bryan got the label lock on, but Miro was able to break out of that. They kept trading blows, and Miro was just daring Bryan to kick him. Bryan kept kicking him, and Miro just got fired up from it. Bryan then hit a DDT off the top, and that pretty much knocked out Miro. He put on a submission, and Bryan won the match via submission. Match was good, but again, the first match really set the bar high. I'm sure Bryan could have done more, but this was the third match of the night. Bryan is now the number one contender. Tic Tat Tat says, I think Miro should have won. I know what you're saying with that, because Miro kind of has fallen from his peak a few months ago as the TNT champion, but Bryan is the bigger star at this point, and he just came in hot, and I guess they want to keep things going with Bryan and put him in the big matches, so it is what it is. Oscar sent in a very generous $10 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, excellent show, Aaron. An A+ for me. A Vicky appearance would have been great. R.I.P. Eddie. Do you miss the Pacific Coast time? Well, Vicky was in the buy-in match. She was there. I definitely missed the Pacific time. It was a lot easier doing these recaps at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Pacific time, for sure. That was definitely an adjustment. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, Danielson didn't need it. Bad call. I agree on that, but I also understand Bryan winning. He's the bigger star at this point, and you want to keep his momentum hot. Dylan Hensley with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Dylan. Says, been hearing from critics that the show had too much and it was too long. Seriously, y'all must think that we're old and have no energy. The show, great, chill. Well, Dylan, I get pretty tired with these 4-hour shows, so I'm getting old. I'm almost 39 here, and one thing I really liked about NXT was the 2.5-hour takeovers. I thought that was a perfect time for a pay-per-view event. 2.5 hours, 5 matches. You kept it simple. I loved those shows and the format, the time of the shows. I understand the 4-hour shows with AEW. They're charging you $50, so they want to give you your money's worth. It is what it is. I wish they would just do it an hour earlier, like start the actual pay-per-view at 7 and end at 11. That would make it a little bit easier. That's just my opinion, though. I'm not totally opposed to 4 hours. I would just prefer it started a little bit earlier. Midnight's tough. Midnight's tough to come on here and do the live stream. I do have a little bit of adrenaline going, so that does help. Moving on here to the next match, we had a Falls Count Anywhere match. We had Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express up against the Superkliq, the Young Bucks, and Adam Cole, baby. This was a really fun match. You had the Superkliq coming out with pink attire. The Young Bucks even had some pink facial hair. Adam Cole looked very much like Bret Hart, and Jim Ross even had to mention how it looked like a Bret Hart meet and greet. This was just a crazy match. They had all sorts of weapons that they were using. We had trash cans. We had chairs. Adam Cole got busted open fairly early in the match. Christian and Nick Jackson were fighting into the crowd. Christian ended up getting on a balcony and jumped off the balcony onto Nick Jackson, Brandon Cutler, and Michael Nakazawa. They were all out there. Jungle Boy, we had some table spots in this match. Jungle Boy gave Cole a Hurricane Rana through a table. And then Matt Jackson did a flying elbow off the top, sending Luchasaurus through a table. And that put Luchasaurus out of action for a while. Nick Jackson got back to ringside, and that's when the Bucks started playing really dirty. They grabbed some thumbtacks. They stuck the thumbtacks in Jungle Boy's mouth. They super kicked him. They worked over Christian for a while. A ladder was brought into the ring. You really had pretty much everything in this match. Luchasaurus came in. He slammed Cole onto the ladder. And then you had Matt Jackson trying to escape. He was up by the stage. He got caught by Jungle Boy. Everybody ended up on the stage at this point. Matt did this dive off the stage onto Luchasaurus. Cole ended up climbing up the scaffolding that's there right at the entranceway, and he did a Panama Sunrise to Jungle Boy on the stage. Cole then brought out some thumbtack knee pads, and they did a triple BTE trigger with the thumbtack knee pads to Luchasaurus, but Jungle Boy was able to make the save at the last second. And then Jungle Boy grabbed Cole, chokeslammed Cole off the stage onto Cutler and Nakazawa below. And then Luchasaurus did a shooting star press. Jungle Boy then hit Matt with a concerto. So a little bit of poetic justice here. Jungle Boy scored the pinfall victory. Match was really fun. Just a crazy brawl. Lots of weapons. Really good stuff here from everybody involved. And I do think this was the right finish. Letting the good guys prevail here. They've lost some matches to the Superkliq over the past several weeks, and then they got taken out on the Go Home show. Made sense to me for the good guys to win here, so big thumbs up for this one. And then we had a tag team match. Cody Rhodes and Pac versus Malachi Black and Andrade El Idolo. This was a good match. I will say this, though. I think that this could have been left off the pay-per-view. There were probably 3 matches they could have taken off the pay-per-view and made it a 3-hour show if they wanted to. But again, they want to give everybody their money's worth. People paying $50 want to make sure people are as happy as possible, getting the most bang for their buck. But this match really did not need to be on the pay-per-view, in my opinion. They pretty much set it up last minute. I mean, we did our predictions video not even knowing this was going to be on the card. And it was kind of like a WWE match with the whole deal where people are trying to coexist. You had Pac and Cody tagging themselves in, the blind tags, and even Malachi Black and Andrade were having some issues. It felt very much like a WWE match with the can they coexist storyline. And it was back and forth here. Arn Anderson got involved, taking out Andrade's assistant, Jose. Cody got a hot tag. Well, not sure you can call it a hot tag because the crowd was pretty much booing him out of the building. Cody did his thing, though. Did a reverse DDT off the top, but he could not make the cover right away. Andrade was able to kick out of that. Dylan says WWE has ruined the can they coexist storyline. Yeah, I mean, you got a point there. And Fluffy PR says it's funny all the former WWE guys had a WWE match, LOL. Yeah, it kind of was amusing. Again, I don't think this match needed to be on the show, but it was good. Cody put Andrade in the figure 4. Pac hit a 450, so they were starting to work together. But Andrade got to the rope, and Pac went for a dive to the outside. But then Malachi Black pulled Cody in front of him, so Cody took the blow. And then Cody and Black went over the barricade and back in the ring. Pac hit the Black Arrow, pinned Andrade. So good guys win here. I don't really think they needed the win. I think Black and Andrade needed it more, but hey, it is what it is. And afterwards, FTR ran down. Well, I think it was just Cash Wheeler and Tully Blanchard. Wheeler ran down and attacked Pac and Cody after the match. Kind of a weird ending. This was fine, but did not really need to be on the pay-per-view, in my opinion. Next up here, we had the Women's Championship match. Britt Baker versus Ty Conti for the women's title. You had Rick Boogs. Actually, it was not Rick Boogs. It was Rich Ward of Fozzy doing a guitar entrance for Britt Baker. Very similar to Rick Boogs doing the entrance for Nakamura. And this was a good match, but again, this was a match that probably could have been a main event of Dynamite, but you got to have at least one women's match on the card. The problem with this match was that I really don't think anybody believed that Ty Conti had a shot of winning this, but it was still good. And there were a few points where Ty was very close to winning the match, and the live crowd was getting into it. They thought maybe she had a chance of winning. There was one point where Baker hit Ty with an air raid crash on the apron, and that was pretty brutal. And Ty stayed in it. Britt put on the lockjaw. Ty got to the rope. Ty hit all of her big moves. She hit the Ty KO. Britt kicked out of that. She hit the DD Ty, and Britt also kicked out of that. And then you had the outside interference. Rebel was interfering. Jamie Hayter was attacking Ty when the referee was distracted with Rebel. Baker hit a stomp on the steel steps, hit a stomp in the ring, but she still could not put away Ty. They made Ty look as strong as possible here. Eventually, Britt was able to counter a pinfall attempt with her own pinfall, and she was able to retain the title. And Ty did not even lose by submission. It was a pinfall win for Britt Baker. So they really did make Ty look as strong in defeat as possible. It was a good match. Predictable, but still a good match, all things considered. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, Britt needs a clean win eventually. I'm with you on that one, and I'm all for protecting Ty, but I think, yeah, maybe Britt could have won this cleanly. Like, they didn't have to do a submission win. They could have done what they did and not had the interference. But, again, it was pretty solid. And Shane Davis says, I'm just happy with any match that's not another tooth and nail match. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. You know, they were doing what they could considering that Britt Baker was hurt. You had the pandemic and all that stuff. Next up, we had CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. And this was pretty freaking awesome. This was a great match, and you knew it was going to be great right from the get-go. Kind of gave me vibes to the CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar match from SummerSlam 2013. Like, right when the match started, you knew it was going to be great. Like, they just had that intensity. And that was the same thing here with Eddie Kingston and CM Punk. Like, right from when the match got going, or even before the match got going, Eddie Kingston took down CM Punk with a backhanded strike. And then CM Punk flipped him off. Match began, and it was just a wild fight between these guys. Like, it felt like these guys were really fighting. And to me, that's a really great wrestling match. Not all the flips and all the stuff that looks choreographed, when it's just two guys beating the crap out of each other, and they can make you suspend disbelief and you think they're really fighting. To me, that's a really good pro wrestling match. And that's what this was. I mean, this was just two guys beating the crap out of each other. Oscar sent in another $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Oscar. I appreciate it. Says, Aaron, the crowd seems to slowly be turning on CM Punk. Perhaps a Punk heel turn coming soon. I think it needs to happen now. This match was a quick one. What do you think? I liked that it wasn't a super long match. Some of these matches I feel went way too long. And this one I felt went just the right amount of time. And it was interesting because the crowd was definitely split between the two of them. And they did start booing CM Punk as the match progressed. And I think it's just the people having that sympathy towards Eddie Kingston. CM Punk got busted open at one point. He was bleeding like crazy. Crowd was chanting both these guys. And CM Punk even played up on the boos. He channeled John Cena at one point and even acted like he was going to do a 5-knuckle shuffle. That was great. They traded some middle fingers, and CM Punk just kept going after him. CM Punk paying tribute to Eddie Guerrero. Did the Three Amigos. We got that again on this show. And they kept brawling back and forth. CM Punk hit a GTS. could not make the cover right away, and then he had to hit a second GTS to eventually pick up the victory over Eddie Kingston. Interesting outcome. I had mixed feelings. Like I did say during the predictions video, I think Kingston needed a win. Keep in mind, he has lost, I think, every pay-per-view match that he's been on since debuting in AEW. He lost to Moxley at last year's Full Gear. He lost the tag team match when him and Moxley teamed up against the Young Bucks. He lost it All Out against Miro. He really needs a big win. It seems like every time he's in a big match situation, he loses. But at the same time, CM Punk is CM Punk. So do you really want CM Punk losing when he's arguably the biggest star in the company? So it was an odd match. Obviously, it wasn't the match that was originally planned. Actually, I think it was. I think I'm mixing things up with Moxley and Bryan Danielson. So never mind on that comment. That was a brain fart. But I think Punk could have taken a loss here, and it would have made Eddie Kingston. But for what it was a hell of a match. And afterwards, Punk went for a handshake. Eddie Kingston denied it. He walked away. Where does Eddie Kingston go from here? Dylan says it was the right call for CM Punk to win. Well, there you go. David sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that, David. I appreciate it. Says, we got a fantastic show, long-term logical booking, great wrestling, and we're invested. Let's be happy because Survivor Series won't deliver this. You're probably right on that. I think Survivor Series will be a good show, but obviously it's been very much thrown together, and they're just relying on the elimination gimmick and essentially relying on the name. You know, with Survivor Series, it's a big four. Tune in, and they're really not putting much thought process into it. Tom McCarthy was there at the show. He sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Tom. Says, just got back to the hotel. Had a great time at Full Gear. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Tom. I heard people had a great time from people that I have spoken with. Pretty much any AEW show is going to be a fun time. We had a 5-on-5 Minneapolis street fight. The Inner Circle up against Men of the Year and America Top Team, which included Junior Dos Santos, the guy whose name I'm not going to pronounce because I'm too tired and I just don't know how to pronounce it, and Dan Lambert. This was a street fight, no DQ. So for some reason, they started the match like it was a regular tag team match with everybody standing on the apron and people tagging in and out. This was a little odd. Like, why not just start it as a street fight from the get-go? But I guess you wanted to actually have a semblance of a regular match before things broke down. It was kind of odd. Didn't really make sense, but whatever. I just mentioned it because people complain when WWE does things that don't make sense like that. So got to have the same energy for AEW. It was kind of weird. But anyways, it was pretty much what you would expect from these guys. Once they started doing the street fight stuff, it kicked into high gear. Lambert was showboating. He tagged himself in and was slapping Jericho around. Junior Dos Santos took Jericho down for a few moments, and then Lambert tagged in and was showboating, but then Jericho got him, and everybody got into the ring, and then we had our street fight. And we had all sorts of weapons. We had hockey sticks. Jericho pulled out a Prince symbol. Prince, of course, from Minnesota. And the crowd started chanting Purple Rain. That was cool. I liked it. Nice little tribute to him and something that's unique to Minnesota and Minneapolis. Santana and Ortiz did a cool stereo submission on Paige and Scorpio Sky. Jake Hager brought in a toaster. Dan Lambert was just standing on the outside of the ring, biding his time. and Junior Dos Santos got hit with a superplex from Santana and Ortiz. And then Scorpio Sky got laid out on a table. Sammy Guevara climbed up to the top, did a Jeff Hardy-like swanton off the ladder, through the table onto Sky. And then we had Baron Von Raschke, who's an old school AWA guy way back in the day, known for the Iron Claw. And he was there at ringside. So was Jake Hager's wife. You had Ethan Paige yelling at her. So Von Raschke put the Iron Claw on Paige. That was pretty cool. I liked that. That was fun. And then Dan Lambert was left alone in the ring. Jericho snuck up on him. Crowd was chanting, "You fucked up." And Jericho beat the crap out of Dan Lambert, but then Junior Dos Santos came in, took a shot at Jericho. Lambert almost got the win on Jericho, but Jericho kicked out. Jericho grabbed a stapler. He stapled Lambert's crotch, and then Jericho, paying tribute to Eddie Guerrero, hit the big frog splash and scored the 1-2-3 victory. So maybe that's why they didn't do the frog splash finish earlier, so they could do it in this match. Jericho gets the win over Lambert. And we get our happy ending. Jericho and the Inner Circle get their revenge. And Joey Perez using a line from Prince, "Let's go crazy, let's get nut." Indeed. Dylan Hensley with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Dylan. Says, also saw some guys complaining that there were too many Eddie tributes on the show. Add that to the list of dumb things to complain about for AEW. I had no issues with the Eddie tributes, you know. I don't think you needed to do it in every match, but I'm not going to complain about it or anything. I still think it would have worked really nicely as a finish for that tag team title match. Let's see what other comments there were. Joey Perez says it was a fun street fight. And Tony H said this match was the worst match of the night, in his opinion. I mean, there were no bad matches on this show. That was probably one of the weaker ones. Again, they maybe could have put this on Dynamite, but they already had a couple matches leading up to it. They had some storyline build-up, so I was fine with it. And we did have a debut on this show. Probably not a debut you were expecting. Well, maybe you were because of all the news about Ring of Honor. We had Jay Lethal, Black Machismo, make his AEW debut. He was interviewed by Tony Schiavone, and he issued a challenge to Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. Guevara accepted the match, which was made official for Wednesday's Dynamite. Tony H says, great signing. And Ratnick says, oh, look, a non-WWE talent. Yeah, there you go. Good signing, in my opinion. I like Jay Lethal, and everybody remembers his famous woo-off with Ric Flair back in Impact/TNA. He's even got the remix of Pomp and Circumstance for his entrance music. So, yeah, I'm all for Jay Lethal in AEW. We had our main event. Kenny Omega, one-on-one with Hangman Adam Page. They had a special video for Page. He was riding his horse through the streets of Minneapolis, and various video clips were shown highlighting all the moments over the past 2 years. Of course, Paige coming up short when he challenged Chris Jericho to crown the first AEW champion, and then all the history between Paige and Omega. Power Packers 90 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, got home from the theater watching it. We were so loud they told us to tone it down for the Halloween Kills screening next door, and we got louder. LOL, great show. That's interesting. What would they do if you were too loud? Would they just kick everybody out, or would they stop the show and not refund people? I always wondered that, like if people were too loud in a movie theater, like can you really punish everybody? But I'm glad you had a great time. I'm glad there was the energy there in the theater. So Omega, all dressed up, had this very fancy attire for the match, of course. Big pay-per-view main event here. And the two of them exchanged words, had a stare down. You had Don Callis interfering early on. He was grabbing Paige's boot. He was taking shots at Paige any opportunity he got. Crowd was chanting, "Fuck Don Callis." And Paige eventually got back in it. Crowd was chanting cowboy shit. Paige did his trademark moonsault to the outside. And then his momentum got cut off when Omega hit a springboard sunset Liger bomb from the top rope. That was pretty crazy. And then Omega hit a Tiger Driver 98, but Paige kicked out of that. Match continued, went back and forth, and Omega was sent to the outside of the ring. Paige came off the top rope with a flying lariat, sending Omega through the table. And then back in the ring, Paige hit several big moves. He was building up his momentum. He went for the buckshot lariat, but Paige ended up hitting the referee as Omega pulled the referee in front of him to take the blow. Don Callis attempted to use the AEW World title, but Paige stopped him. Omega tried to use the title. However, Paige was able to hit the Deadeye. Audrey Edwards ran down to be the second referee, but Omega kicked out. Match continued. They kept trading blows. Paige called Omega a motherfucker, hit a lariat. Crowd just erupted, chanted AEW. And that's when the Young Bucks arrived. Now, there was a promo on Rampage where Paige told the Bucks that if they cross him in this match, that he would end them. So they were out there at ringside, and of course, everyone was wondering what were they going to do. They were standing on the outside. Paige hit Omega's one-winged angel, but Omega kicked out. And then Paige hit the buckshot lariat to the back of Omega's head. He went over to the other side of the ring to hit a second one. And then Matt Jackson looked over at Paige and gave the nod. He just stood there. The Bucks did nothing. Paige hit the second buckshot lariat. 1, 2, 3. Picked up the win. Brand new AEW champion. Ending Kenny Omega's nearly 1-year reign as champion. Definitely the right call here. And the Young Bucks made the decision to not cost Paige the championship. Big celebration. You had the Dark Order coming into the ring to celebrate. Big feel-good moment to end the pay-per-view. So, great stuff here. Great match to end the pay-per-view. Tony H was like glad he won, but the damn protected one-wing angel thing sucks. Yeah, they did not do the kick out. I was thinking they were going to have Omega hit the one-winged angel and Paige would have kicked out of it, but they did not do that. Marcus the Entertainer with a $2 super chat says, Hangman returning home to Virginia as the world champion. And we pretty much all expected it. Then the next Dynamite's going to be in Virginia. I think we all expected the title change here, and it was the right call, absolutely. And Caleb Jacobs says the longest AEW champion of all time, Kenny Omega. That's true. There's only been 3, but he was the longest reigning champion. And yeah, the show was great. I mean, AEW, in my opinion, has not put out a bad pay-per-view. And this was definitely top-tier stuff from start to finish. Few issues here. Few matches maybe I would have cut out. Little long, but I'm going to go with a solid A. Great show. 100% worth the money. And I would highly recommend the pay-per-view to anybody. Great show. Everybody did fantastic. Everybody put on the best performances they could. Looking in the chat room, first of all, the poll, 74% A, 20% B, 4% C, and 2% D. So AEW definitely delivering again. Michael Wayne with an A, MVP Kev with an A, Caleb Jacobs A+, Mohammed B+, Terry, Justin, Tic Tat Tat, and Life of Beto all give it a solid A. Tony H says, thank you AEW for showing us how to do a proper pay-per-view. Marcus the Entertainer with an A. And you know what? They didn't need 2 or 3 former WWE guys showing up to give the show that oomph. Dylan Hensley with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Dylan. Says, this is how you do wrestling long-term storytelling. Absolutely. I'm with you on that. Show delivered big time. And I think my favorite match was probably CM Punk and Eddie Kingston, with the main event being a close second, and then the opening match, Darby Allin and MJF. Those 3 matches alone, to me, were well worth the price of admission. And that's all I got for the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And again, if you liked the video, please give it a like and share it. Tell a friend, anybody you know who watches wrestling, have them check this out. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com. You can get all the detailed results over there. And all the latest news will be up on NoDQ.com. Thank you guys. Have a great night. I'm off to bed. I'll see you all next time.